Good day, everyone. I am the next reporter. Today, I am going to discuss my assigned topic, which is the exile and execution of Jose Rizal. So, before we start our discussion, let us define first what is an exile and execution. So, when we say exile, it is the situation of a person who is forced to leave his or her own country, while the execution is the carrying out of a sentence of death on a condemned person. Rizal eventually was exiled for his writings, which called for reform in Spain. However, he returned to the Philippines in 1892, where he promptly faced accusations of being there to start a rebellion. He was sent in exile to an island where he taught for approximately 4 years. It was during this time that he met a girl named Josephine Bracken. They requested a license to marry, but because of his troubles with the church, they were denied. So based on what I read, that in the year 1886, Rizal studied medicine at the University of Heidelberg and wrote his classic novel Noli Me Tangere, which condemned the Catholic Church in the Philippines for its promotion of Spanish colonialism. Immediately upon its publication, he became a target for the police who even shadowed him when he returned to the Philippines in 1887. He left his country shortly thereafter to return to Spain, where he wrote a second novel, the El Filibusterismo, in 1891, and many articles in his support of the Filipino nationalism and his crusade to include representatives from his homeland in the Spanish Cortes. Rizal returned in the Philippines in 1892 and created the Liga Pilipina, a political group that called for peace chains for the islands. Nevertheless, Spanish officials were displaced and exiled Rizal to the island of Mindanao. During his 4 years there, he practiced medicine, taught students, and collected local examples of flora and fauna while recording his discoveries. In the last days of February 1895, while still in Dapitan, Rizal met an 18 years old petite Irish girl with bold blue eyes, brown hair, and a happy disposition. She was Josephine Bracken, the adopted daughter of George Stauffer from Hong Kong, who came to Dapitan to seek Rizal for eye treatment. Rizal was physically attracted to her. His loneliness and boredom must have taken to measure of him, and what could be a better diversion than to fall in love again. Rizal and Bracken was requested a license to marry, but unfortunately they were denied because of the troubles in church. In 1896, revolt for Spanish reform was out of hand and Rizal opposed the violence openly. He decided to visit Cuba and was granted permission to do so. On the way to Cuba, he was detained and thrown into jail. He was tried by the courts and charged with the crimes of conspiracy, rebellion, and sedition. Despite denying the charge vehemently, he was sentenced to death. Approximately 2 hours prior to being executed, he was permitted to marry Josephine. On December 30, 1896, he was shot by a firing squad at the age of 35 in Bagumbayan, Luneta, which has been renamed Rizal Park in his memory. So based on what I read, that during his exile in Dapitan, Rizal enlisted as a volunteer doctor in Cuba to help the Spanish army. Despite resistance from higher Spanish authorities, Rizal was allowed to join. However, due to the discovery of Katipunan and his implication to the group, he was arrested while in transit. He was detained in the ship, then at Spain, before being returned to Manila. Following the preliminary investigations in November, Rizal was put on trial at the Corchal de España on 26 December and was ruled guilty of rebellion, sedition, and conspiracy. Judge advocate for the case Captain Rafael Dominguez notified Rizal of his death sentence in the morning of 29 December. His execution is scheduled the next day. He spent his final day receiving guests, composing letters, completing his valedictory poem, and permitted to marry Josephine. In the morning of 30th December, he began his march to Bangubayan Field. Having accepted his fate, Rizal was in a calm disposition nearing the time of his death. As shots rang out from the guns of the firing squad, Rizal tried to face his executioners, fell down, and died facing the sky. Rizal died at the age of 35 in Bagumbayan, Luneta, which has been renamed Rizal Park in his memory.